Hello everybody, it's Narrative Tarot. I'm here for Venus, July 2021. This is a change of setting for a little bit. It's my room. Anyway, so comment, like, subscribe to the channel. So I do these by blah 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 blah. I do these by planet as opposed to zodiac, so there's only 10 for the month. If you're interested in that, if you know natal chart and you kind of know things that are going on, like particular planets and whatnot, then this is probably for you. I'm using the Cosmic Tarot for this reading. This is a Venus deck for me. Ignore the fan. Yeah. So, we have three cards. We have the King of Pentacles, Ten of Swords, and then we have the High Priestess. Some of you guys are going to be joining certain societies, things like that, because I just see this and I think of sorority and stuff like that. Like, not necessarily secret societies, but they could be societies that are quite they're like well known in the community for their stuff, or they're not known but they actually play influential roles in society, as in like people on boards for things and stuff like that. Like, you may be looking to be a part of an organization that's a part of a board or part of a group or something like that. You also could be a part of a collective that's quite visionary for the time that we're in. Quite visionary. I kind of see that there is a little bit of feeling like maybe you guys are out of your time period or something like that. But I kind of think that you're an interesting group of people. I think that you'll be going forward with these ideas and stuff like that, or you'll work to put money into these ideas. So either you have the money and you're gonna like pump it into a system, or you're gonna work to get the money so that they can go to these things. You may be making a foundation, you may be making a fundraiser nonprofit that tackles ideas that are related to Ten of Swords, so mental health crises, paying for therapy sessions for people or something like that. If you're not doing that, it may be a good time to set up some sort of foundation to start this kind of stuff, because it's really important, and you'll be seen as a visionary if you know, if it's important to be seen as that. You'll be seen as a visionary and all of that stuff. And you'll also be able to explore your vision and explore things. I think you'll be able to do a lot of self work in helping other people, because you'll be able to see things reflected back to you and how it influences you and stuff like that. You'll be able to kind of challenge that, look at that, understand it. You may start a society about the moon, lunar, things like that related to the moon. So you might be joining an astrological group within your city, your town, state, country, whatever, like some sort of like federation or organization regarding that. Or you just may be learning a new spiritual practice. I believe Venus is going into Leo soon, if it's not already in Leo. It'd be quite interesting to see how that goes. But I think today, well, this month, July, is a good month for kind of looking at things and seeing and having vision for it. I think having vision is like a great thing at this time. Just because, I'm going to turn this fan off because I feel like it's getting on my nerves. So hold on. There. I thought I could endure with the sound, but I cannot. So, having like vision, having the ability to see into the future, the ability to see how things can connect, unconventional like business kind of ideas, um, related to growth and development and cycles and things like that. Understanding trends, understanding where things are going, understanding alternate routes that trends can take that may be unexpected to some people. That if people place their bets on very particular ways of being in terms of like business model and structure like that, you're somebody who can invest in things that are quite different to what the established kind of like norm is, essentially. So those are that. So I think I'm going to do three groups of three, and we'll see kind of how they all relate. So you have the Ace of Cups, the World, and then the Prince. So Ace of Cups, the World, and then the Prince of Pentacles. So I think it actually is quite a good time for development of stuff like that. I will say there may be just a few people that are kind of watching you develop this. Um, Haters, no, I'm kidding. They may be watching you develop um, your mental attitude. It's like it's not developing the thing, but I think developing the sense of the ability to do this kind of stuff. Like, to me, this doesn't seem like the stuff manifested. I mean, it could because it's the last card. It's called the World, and it's like the end, right? But I kind of feel like it's like the mental processes of how someone goes from like just living their experience to actually having like ideation of things. That's how I feel with this. Like the inner world, they're quick to see what the inner world is. They may think that they may have some blocks around creativity. So okay, this is for somebody who may like also like dibble and dabble in like, you know, recreational things. We'll call it that. Um, and we're dealing with the archetype of like the creative, and sometimes the archetype of the creative is that they like are taking like a lot of substances, or like they also have mental disorders. And well, I do think that like that kind of is low-key true, that most people who are creative end up having like some sort of thing. And that's not necessarily the case. So don't feel like you have to fit the mode of what a creative is, like the archetype of the creative. There's many different types of creatives out there. There's many different types of creatives. So you know, even if you're like painting, you know, you're three people in a room and you're painting, like your approaches to them are very different. Your approaches to painting is different. Your color composition, your texture, what you paint, like as far as the actual subject matter, composition, stuff like that. Like, make sure that you're not trying to fit the mold of what creative is and setting yourself up and trying to get into the mind state of a creative instead of just being creative. Um, you know, trying to, you know, every artist needs to have this and that and the other. Like, you know, like stuff like that. It's time to like move outside of the box. Actually, you know, if you don't have these materials, that's fine. If you want them, then I guess go get them, but you don't have to use them because you're like over reliant on this for your creativity. And then also kind of thinking that because you fall into a particular field that's considered creative, that you have to do things in a particular way as far as like subject matter. Take for example, so I'm like I'm African American. I like art, but and I doodle and stuff like that, but I'm not interested in some of the pit holes, the pitfalls, or the pigeonholes. There we go. That people may tend to put other African American or Black artists into. What I mean by that, particularly things like the Black experience and stuff like that. It's like people have this expectation that like the Black experience has to look a certain way, composed and stuff like that. For me, by virtue of me being African American, therefore Black, anything that I make is of the Black experience. Like I don't have to explicitly draw something that fits into that preconceived notion of that experience, right? And you can kind of argue a little bit about the soapbox, that it's it's something that keeps people in check, and it's a mechanism that is used to kind of steer people away from maybe their true artistic creative abilities and put them in more a societally fit kind of thing that makes other people comfortable. If we're talking about soapbox going again, if we're talking about like race or something like that, like of course you would put the Black artist into the Black experience kind of thing. Like you may not be so open to them having their own world. They may want to talk about like spaceships or rocks or something like that. By virtue of them being who they are, they still fit into that larger category. It's just they're not doing it in that way. And in many cases, in that way serves a very particular group of people who have a very particular narrative that they want to put. So I think that this is breaking out of that narrative that they have as well about things, but also make sure that you don't get stuck in the narrative trying to be something that you're not, or that you're not interested in. Like, there's no point if you're not interested in it. So study, explore, create things that you're interested in that you actually will want to explore and talk about. Like, think about it from the perspective of you already have, like, you have the, I don't know, the gallery show, whatever. Like, what would that say? Like, what would your kind of, like, synopsis or description say? You know, what would it look like? What would you be talking about? Like, having an interview, a mock interview with somebody, like, how would you explain these concepts? Are you more likely to try to do it in a conventional way that everybody understands or makes you comfortable, or would you say it in a way that's kind of honest? So now we have Six of Wands, Two of Swords, and Two of Wands. Yeah. So for me, there's a great level of depth to whatever it is that you're doing, but I would say like great level of depth. You may be somebody who does really paint their emotions and stuff like that. I would say it's a great thing. I think being able to explain it a little bit may be helpful if you're trying to secure funding and stuff like that, but also just being open and honest about what you're feeling and things. Um, I would say don't lend too much to being like controversial or something like that for the sake of being it. Express what you really want to say and what you really are exploring and thinking and feeling, and not having a lot of preconceived notions about what you're supposed to be feeling or thinking based on your field or based on the medium that you're choosing, right? I would say it's a great time to have a nice website, to have a nice description, to plan exhibitions. If you're somebody who wants to plan exhibitions, go ahead and do that because it'll be helpful. I think I'm going to speak from somebody who I like intensives. I don't like, and I was just writing this in a video, commenting that I actually like intensives. I'm not someone who's going to stay for the next 4 or 5 years working on one idea. Actually moving from idea to idea to idea, like completing the project, but moving from idea to idea to idea actually helps me go in depth because it's like whatever I wrote, it's like not a flash in the pan and that it's superficial, but it's what I'm feeling in that moment, and now I'm in this moment. And there's the idea, and this is like Piscean, I think, kind of stuff, Mercury's Pisces and stuff like that, that whatever you put out there is already old consciousness anyway, and so that you shouldn't be too worried with being innovative and stuff like that. think about a cell phone. By the time the cell phone came out to society, it was already old consciousness. It was already an old idea. And so if you have pressure to be better and this and, so innovative and so groundbreaking, I think like you are, but just understand that like by the time it gets out to the people, like it's old consciousness. And so don't pigeonhole yourself into certain ways of being, because it's like by the time people get it, as far as like get to see your art and stuff like that, or mentally like consciously understand what you're doing, you're already on something else. And so the best thing you can do is to thoroughly explain things where you're at right now while you're in them. And then as you go forward, you can kind of like whatever gaps are there, then fill them in and stuff like that, because you'll have the perspective then going back on what actually was linking you when you take the time to actually explore it. So I think it's a great time to plan out exhibitions, to plan out things that you want to present to the world. And I'm talking about 2 to 5 projects in advance. I think that planning them out in advance actually helps you grind your gears, and not grind them in a bad way, because you have 9 of Swords. Not in a bad way, but I think you get to think about things and you get to explore things, and a lot of stockpiled, backlogged, in queue kind of ideas are gonna probably come out, and you'll be able to like deal with them and actually put them out for the public. You have 7 of Cups, right? Don't do anything too overwhelming. Don't do anything, you know, don't do too much, but I think that it's a great time to put yourself in that mode of doing, and especially since Venus is so much about the senses and stuff like that, being immersed in your senses, your life, your ability to go forward and make something concrete of the emotions, literally and figuratively, actually is helpful. So I think this is a great time to explore. Also, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it. Anything else? 7 of Cups again. So take this time, if with ideas swirling around, to pick the best ones, or the ones you feel like consciousness needs to kind of have a relationship with at this time. Like, the people need this, or I feel like this is kind of either the people need it, or this is done in my life and I feel like I've learned enough to where when I complete this project, it will say what I need to say in a way that imparts like wisdom. And so that'll be helpful for the people. Okay. Ace of Swords. So, yes. Okay. So, thank you, Venus, for watching July 2021. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Comment, like, subscribe. Like I said, there'll be some other stuff in the works. I'm like so backlogged, but whatever. Comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.